Let me turn my notifications off for my feed.
Hey. Hey guys, I am so excited. Thank you so much for everybody joining, all the planners. We're recording this session so we can share it with other planners and even wedding vendors around the country, because I think this is obviously a really important topic right now, is bookkeeping, accounting, finances, your business. And we're super blessed to have Tiffany Bastian of Bastian Accounting with us here today. Sorry, Bastian Accounting, and just really excited to have her with us. She's an expert. I actually found her via Instagram, was instantly attracted to her business, what she's got going on, and put it down as a note to reach out to her, and did that a couple of weeks ago before everything kind of happened with Corona, and was just super honored that she reached back out and said, yeah, I'll talk to you guys, because we get a ton of questions all the time about bookkeeping, accounting, all the number things, and I'm horrible at that, as are most creatives, wedding planners. So Tiffany, thank you so much for being here today. And a shout out to Jasmine, one of our planners in Dallas, who actually provided the bulk of our questions, and I was just really excited to see that. And then we added on a special question at the end related to Corona and emergency finance stuff. So anyways, it's going to be an awesome call. Tiffany, thank you so much. I guess I'll let you take it from here in terms of the questions. I put them in the chat box, but I think you.
Yeah, I just opened that up. I see that.
But can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your background. We're already having too much fun chatting with you.
So. Well, my name is Tiffany Bastian, and I'm the owner of Bastian Accounting. I have, I think it's been about almost 7.5 years since I started working for myself. I've been in accounting a long time, working for other people. I like to say that there wasn't a cubicle strong enough to hold my entrepreneurial spirit in place. And so I will never forget when I decided that I had foot surgery. I took a lot of lower tab, and I designed this entire business and told my husband I was quitting my job and doing this. And he was like, oh my God. And here we are. So I'm an overthinker, but there are a few things in my life where I just jumped, and this is one of them. So, but yeah, so yeah, it is. And it's a few of the things where I am totally an analyzer. And I'm like, I was crazy. Why did I just do that? But those are the best things in my life, so. I work mostly with creative entrepreneurs. I kind of niched down a couple years ago, realizing, because I used to be a website designer. So I'm very creative. I do these things. I struggle because sometimes I'll be having to do something like taxes, and I'm like, I want to do that image for the webinar. I'm stuck. I want to design it right. And I'm like, no, do this, so I am very conflicted. I feel very bad for my husband. I'm kind of both, so what this allows me to do is work with people that I get and I love, and I can kind of feed off their creativity and actually get because I do love the numbers piece. It's weird. I can't explain it. It's very, very conflicting. But a lot of times I meet people and they're like, you're an accountant? I'm like, yes, but I guess I'm not some man in a brown suit sitting at some desk with a nameplate. So it's I don't know what people think of an accountant, but I like to think that's the thing that separates me. And I love my clients, build these relationships with people that, love the things that I love. And I don't know, I think that you guys can all agree, we all know at some point when you talk to somebody, you get that feeling that that's not your client, and then the feeling when it is your client. And when you start listening to those feelings, your life changes. So, so I do everything remotely. So I am in Buffalo, New York. I don't know the exact numbers, but I have a good chunk of clients here. There's just a huge photography. I just can't believe how many photographers and wedding people are everywhere. It blows my mind. But I've only met probably about, I don't even know, 10%, less than 10% of my clients, in real life ever. It's just crazy that we've never even Zoomed. It's just insane, the relationship I have with people that I've actually never met, and how many years I've been with some of these people. So the internet's an amazing thing, especially in a time like this. And I have a course, and I go all the way up to doing the bookkeeping and the taxes for clients. So I kind of try to meet people where they are. And I think that's important. And I found that out, I've been doing bookkeeping for a long time, and doing the tax piece. I added that on, but then it was like, there's people that are kind of like starting out or they're not sure. Sometimes it's people who need to learn that they don't want to do it. Sometimes they do go through all that and go, yeah, still don't want to do it. I don't know why I even did all that, but here, and then kind of move on from there. So, but the biggest thing is I think that a lot of people underestimate their bookkeeping. They're kind of like, they're like, oh, it's just tax time and I got to pull it all together and it's always crazy and I'm stressed out and then I owe money. Most likely if you own a business, you probably stopped getting tax returns a while ago. And then you're kind of like, well, I don't even know why. And then you just pay it and you're like, next year it's not going to be like this. And then it's next year. And so you guys, I'm sure we're all familiar with that. I have been in that myself. Mm-hmm. My business grew so fast. My husband was like, when are we getting our tax return? I was like, about that. I wanted to throw up. I didn't do my own estimated payments. I had to go and I had to do like the payment plan. And I was like, Tiffany, you are a freaking accountant. What is wrong with you? Why are you in this situation? Seriously, you preach to people. And that's when I decided to run things the way I do now. So I do taxes and tax planning with my clients. So we do the bookkeeping. Every quarter we look at it. We're like, do you need to make an estimated payment? How can you save? Do you need to restructure? That has changed the game because that's how I changed it for myself. So it's proactive, right? Because we can be reactive and it's the worst thing, but we've become very proactive. And that is like my goal for any client is to get them to that point. And a lot of entrepreneurs, like they kind of either, they like do one or two things. Some go crazy about the spreadsheets and tracking it all, but they don't really know what for. And then some are like, well, whenever someone asks me, I'll figure it out. But it's like, that's how you know how you're, like, can you run your business with no money? And people don't realize like that is literally the key. But besides your marketing, it's how much money and where's it coming from? Where is it going? Like, it's so interesting to me to find so many people, and mostly because I work with creatives who are full of passion. So they're like, oh, I'm so passionate and I love this, but then they're like, I don't understand. I feel like I'm living paycheck to paycheck and I have no money. And it's like, well, because you kind of, if you don't record or do it, I mean, even if it's a spreadsheet. So I try to get people to do like, you know, what do you need to track? Or what do you need to understand? And the biggest thing probably, and some of you might have, is like, how do you pay yourself? Like, right, because you did this to make money at some point. But like, how do you, a lot of people will just be running their business and they never take anything out. Maybe they're living off their spouse's income or something, but without any of that information of what's coming and going, you don't know what you can take, how much to take, what's regular for you, you know? So I'm trying to think what else to tell you guys.
I accidentally muted you to stop some other noise, and I think we
I'm just talking.
No, you're fine. You were good till it was like, you know, you took, maybe you're living off your spouse's income, and then I accidentally.
Oh, no worries. So it's just like, you know, I kind of always describe it like I want to help clients turn their passion into like the vehicle to finance the life they want to live, right? Because a lot of people get stuck in, oh, I'm going to own my own business and I'm passionate about it and I love it, but they never get to that next phase. It's like they just kind of stay in this corner where if they had the right pieces, they, you know, and they understood a little bit more about the money flow, they could like go to that next level and then really like live the life they want to live. Anyhow, all of that to say, yeah, so I do everything from, like I said, I have a course where I kind of literally go through what I do to set up a client's books. And then I do I do the bookkeeping, I do tax planning, I do taxes. I am a QuickBooks Pro advisor, which like means I get certified in their software. I will say I am a QuickBooks queen. Like I can make that stuff. It's hard for me to call support because I'm like, no, listen to me. I know how this does this. So I need you to tell me this one part. And they're always like, wait, you know, because I've just been using it for so long. I use QuickBooks Online. It integrates with so much stuff. You know, and that's a huge thing in this industry. Even is like people use 17 Hats, or they're using like Dubsado or Honeybook or all these different things. Like all that can talk, and you know, part of it is building out what do you want your clients to see, and then how do I want you to be able to have ease of use, and then I just like Frankenstein it all together in the back. We make everything go and work, and then everybody can have like their like beautiful thing they're working on, but we collect everything we need to make that make that stuff for you, those financials and stuff. But yes, so I'm sorry,
No, you're great. This is great because this is a struggle for a lot of people on the team is like, yeah, how do I know when to pay myself, how much to pay myself? Yeah.
Well, it kind of gets to be where people are like, well, just doing what I'm doing is, like, I guess, currency enough for me. But we are in a world where you can't buy food with passion yet. So, but, and that's the thing too, I find with a lot of creatives is the stuff that they come up with just blows my mind, and the different types of businesses, creatives, things they can turn into businesses. But then they get stuck at that business piece, like, everyone's like, you don't have to go to business school, but it's like, just what are some basic things to learn? And they kind of struggle with that piece. So I try to help show them things. One of the biggest thing is I have a lot of photographers who make very good money. And I'm like, you are like just paying a lot in taxes for like no reason. And so I did come out with this, and it's free. Like if you join my mailing list, it's free right now until tax day. I just decided to do this, but it's called Business Structure Bootcamp. And so I kind of go through and explain, because you were saying this earlier, people go in Facebook groups and everyone tries to help everyone with what they know, but unfortunately a lot of times what they know is what they heard so-and-so say in this other group. And I try to be the mediator. Like, so I actually have a Facebook group where I'm like, okay, let's talk about it with me, and I will help you understand what the IRS says and what that like translates to. Because a lot of people will be like, oh, well, my friend's an LLC, so blah, 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 but they don't know what that means. Or they will email me and say, well, do I have to make a certain amount of money to form an LLC? And the answer is no. So I built this, I don't know, probably about 2 months ago, because I was like, I want to explain this, because I explain it so much, especially right at the beginning of the year. But it talks about like, what is an LLC, but what is a DBA? And like, what is the difference? How does it change anything? What does it do for you? And what does it cost? It's different in every state. And then I go into like, what is an S corporation? And how that works, because S corporation is what I am. And this was the thing I was kind of alluding to earlier with right now. I'm an S corporation. I'm on payroll in my own company. I pay into unemployment. I could go on unemployment if something happened right now. But I also believe they're changing the requirements for such things too, so that it's not like as rigid. But
I pulled up the boot camp
so
you can see.
It's really interesting. So we have it now, and I believe if you go and like, I gotta find out the thing, and maybe I'll just post it back to you. But basically, when you join the mailing list, you get this access to this for free in the members area, and it's I think 7 or 8 little modules, and the videos, you guys, are like under 5 minutes. But I feel like it's so important to understand like the basic pieces of these things, because it gets so mixed up, and people. And then, I mean, if I had a dime for everybody who was like, oh, I'm set up this way, and then we'll file their taxes. And it's like, no, that's the wrong entity. This business, so I have to I always do a little research with a new client, like, how are you set up? Let's see what you filed. Let's see what this means and all that stuff.
Well, what a great opportunity to do this. And, the irony, like the silver lining we've been talking about with, everything going on right now and people being stuck at home is, for the first time, maybe ever, people don't really have a great excuse to not.
I know.
There are some people who are sick and working in the medical field.
Oh no, really.
All the grace for them. But there are hopefully a lot more people right now who are saying they have a lot of time, who could actually take the time to take some of your courses. I know you've got a free webinar, and really figure this stuff out so that, like you said, next year, it's not a surprise and they're on top of it. So, because it is supposed to be tax season, obviously it's been all moved back, but instead of waiting until July to do it, what a great opportunity to do something that will help, your business.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, a lot of times, like I have clients, that we do bookkeeping for, or people will call me and say, well, I just want to have something that does it all. But there's also still an element I want you to know. Like you should know about your business. You should understand what is on the profit and loss. And I should tell you, in this time that we're in, and it's kind of a weird blessing, the tax season has moved. I'm almost caught up right now because I stay on the schedule, and I'm like, wow. But my plan for quarter 2 is actually for my master bookkeeping course to like add more content. I actually think I'm going to go into a direction of like Etsy sellers too. Let's add like inventory and how to do all that stuff in your bookkeeping. And I really want to do more modules. I'm going to do a W-9 1099 workshop. Like, let's talk about those two forms because they get mixed up. People don't know what they are, especially with contractors. They're like, and for me at the end of the year, we tell our clients, so every month we go through and we're like, okay, we send over any transactions that we have questions on. When we know that somebody's contracted, we're like, okay, we got a list. We need these W-9s, and we keep track for them and help them try to get through the year. But we always get to the end of the year and we're chasing people down for W-9s so that we can file the 1099. People are pushing back. This person said they don't have to give me one. And it's always because people, they don't know. And if you were to go Google it for the IRS and read any of those publications, I would not blame anyone. I mean, it's like written like worse than, it's like law. It is law. It's the most hard to understand gray area thing you'll ever read, you know? But so I try to break that down, and then there's new elements of it, right? So like something you guys don't know, maybe most likely, and that I plan on writing about. I've almost finished blog post. I'm just really excited to get a tax season because I have like all this stuff I want to create. So, but is that if you're paying somebody that you're contracting somebody and you're paying them through like PayPal or a third-party merchant service that has fees, okay? So like a credit card, if you're paying them that way, you don't actually have to worry about the 1099 because those companies have to file a 1099K. And that's something that's been like kind of happening for, I don't even know, I want to say since 2012, but no one was really paying attention. And now there's like tax law around it. Even says in the 1099 instructions that you do not need to file that if you paid someone through a third party merchant because they're reporting it, and that might double report it. But here's the thing. I'm sure you guys are familiar with $600 or more, you have to report it. You do. But they don't have to report it to $20,000 or more. So there's this huge gap the IRS just created. It's just so stupid. I don't know what they're going to do. But
I know that.
Yeah.
I really don't have to report it unless it's over 20K. Holy freaking.
And so now there's like this huge window of like, well, they've got to figure out how to close the gap for themselves because let's say you're paying everybody through something else if you don't report it. Again, the only reason for the W-9 and the 1099 is because people are self-employed. The IRS wants to make sure they get part of that earned income, but the only thing they can do is say, hey, if you want to deduct it, you have to report it so we know they made it so we can tax them. And then a lot of times people will forget and somebody will file a 1099 and then they didn't realize it and then they already filed their taxes. So, it is not the best system yet, I suppose, but another thing people don't realize is that if somebody won't give you a W-9, you need to stop paying them, in my opinion. You shouldn't even pay them. I always make it your onboarding process is to get the W-9 because technically you're supposed to have it so that you know what you're supposed to do. It tells you. So if they check off S corporation, that means you have proof like I didn't pay them or I didn't report it because they said they were an S corporation. So you have proof of why you did or didn't do something. But the thing is, a lot of people don't do that, and I get it. So I feel like it's my mission. Like I'm trying to educate all the entrepreneurs. Like just get the paperwork, just do it right because you're supposed to withhold 24% like a payroll tax if you're paying somebody who won't give you a W-9. Because then the IRS is like and it says right in the instructions like you're responsible for the withholding. If they won't give you a W-9, you need to withhold from them and give it to us on their part. Like it's
wow,
messy.
I didn't realize that either.
Yeah.
I did not realize that.
And another big one that we have is landlords. Most landlords. So a real quick 101 is you have to report anybody you pay who's self-employed who is not a corporation. So that's an S corporation or C corporation. I'm an S corporation. When people ask for W-9, I still give them one that says that so they have it. But some S corporations will be like, you don't, they get all crazy. But most people that like manage property, they're just a partnership or an LLC. And so a lot of landlords, it blows my mind, will be like, I've never had to give anyone a W-9. And it's like, they just because they don't want to report the income. Some of them you can tell that they're just trying to avoid reporting the income by telling you one thing. So for a lot of people that rent studios or space, I'm like, we always try to make sure they get that W-9 up front. But that is one of the biggest people that push back during tax time. My clients are getting upset. They're like, I've asked my landlord like 8 times, they won't give me one. You're still supposed to file. There's a checkbox that says they wouldn't give you the information. So I would say get your W-9 first. If you can't get it, at least know their mailing address as much as you can about them, because you can still file it and you can tick off that they refuse to give it to you. So it's not on you. The fines for 1099.
All very good information, because we're all about being proactive in processes. And I know, like for us, you know, I have my ICs invoice me at the end of the month for everything. So there's only 12 invoices at the end of the year to reflect upon, instead of a payment here, a payment there, a payment there.
Oh yeah.
We're trying to match up. So
no, that's great.
Get our W-9s, monthly invoices. I'm loving this. I'm all about.
No, it's so good. And so many people confuse it too. They'll be like, payroll. I'm like, don't use payroll. Like, don't use the word employee, because there's a misclassification, right? And so obviously a lot of people don't realize too, you can't just pick somebody as a contractor. Oh, I'm going to contract them. It's like there's criteria. Like, I don't control their schedule. They work from their own space. Like, they're their own person. They pay their own taxes. They have their own sort of, like, they're contracted. A lot of people think that they can just choose, like, oh, I have this girl come into my studio. She does all the calls and I'm contracting her. I'm like, she's kind of, if you get caught misclassing somebody as a contractor versus an employee, you have to go back and pay all that employment tax, their part and your part, and there's fines. And I know that's something you know, some of the webinars for tax season starting up in January was like, that's something that they're really revisiting, especially because look at this, we're over it. Everybody's contracting everybody. So they want to get in and figure out, like, you know, that's probably where they could do a lot of audits and things. But it's just having the W-9's a contract, guys. Like, if you have it signed, like, that's a contract. This person is a contractor. You know, you have that in place. It's not just like, I pay so-and-so $10 an hour to come do this and it's in cash, and, you know, you just want to do the best you can. And I understand that it's not always easy to when people are starting out and it's confusing. So I'm trying to go over like the basic stuff.
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff in those little workshops that are, you know, I have the business structure boot camp for retail tax day, but they're low price. I think it's normally like $17. I want them to be low price things where people can, like, okay, like, get like the main pieces to start to think, okay, what do I need to know between these things that I didn't realize? Because we don't know what we don't know. Until somebody sends you a letter from the IRS and suddenly you have to get to know it really fast.
Yeah.
With an attorney or someone that you're paying.
I know someone in an event industry, wedding planner, floral design situation, who was charged $60,000 by the IRS for not paying payroll taxes. It does happen.
Yeah.
It happens. Skylar has a question. What's your question, Skylar?
Hey, so I am going to be filing taxes as an S Corp for not 2019.
Okay, so I'm like, because you're late. They were due last month. No, for 2020?
Yeah, so we're changing our, I'm doing like retroactive, because we've been doing everything like an S Corp anyways. And so,
so you're going back to January 1st, 2020.
Huh?
You're retroacting back to January 1st, 2020.
Yes. Yeah. So it's not going to affect 2019 taxes. Those are already done, all that kind of stuff. But like, but it is interesting because I didn't think about that changing a W-9. And of course, I can still like give them, but is there anything that I need to know about interacting with people as a give or take of money that I need to know?
So your W-9 changes, which means that you don't have to worry about people reporting you, and people will still send 1099s. It's interesting to me. I am an accountant. I know people that have been accountants way longer than me, and they still send them to everybody. They just, like, they don't, I don't know, they just, whatever. But the thing is, when you report that, and if it's getting reported elsewhere too, then you're double counting it. But the biggest thing I would say for S Corp, which I hope you know, and I have found times where I have had clients who are like, oh, I've been an S Corp for 10 years. You have to take a reasonable salary through payroll for your company. And that is the reason that you do it. Because
that's exactly why we're doing it, is because I'm paying too much.
Yeah. And now you are not paying.
Explain this to me for the whole team's sake. Why are you going from LLC to S Corp?
Tiffany, I will let you explain it because it was explained to me, but I can promise you I will not do as good of a job as you will.
We all need
this is my favorite topic, so I just want you guys to
great. So I'll let you take it.
First of all, I will say too, like, make sure you go get that free. I will send you a link to the free business structure bootcamp, because I go through all the pieces, and then S Corp, and I do numbers and show you why you want to do this, because this is my number one thing I explain on every new client call. And I was like, how do I not repeat this a million times but share it? So I had to build the visualization, because I know I'm working with creatives, and I think seeing the numbers helps. But so we're going to talk about two categories: the non-S corporation, which is a DBA, a sole proprietor, an LLC, a partnership, anybody who's not an S corporation. We're not going to talk about C corporations. C corporations are like Target, like big companies. Those companies pay taxes on their income, and then all the shareholders pay taxes. There's double taxation for C corporations. Most of them are publicly traded. We don't care about that. That's not our thing. S corporation.
Corporation.
You are?
No.
Oh, an S corporation is like a hybrid that was created. The government created this hybrid where you're like a self-employed individual, but you can be taxed as a corporation. So first thing is you have to be an LLC, which you have to register in your state. Every state is different. You have to be an LLC to even elect to be taxed as an S corporation. When you elect to be taxed as an S corporation, you no longer pay self-employment tax, which is what all of you pay when you file your Schedule C on your taxes. So I'm going to use round numbers. Let's say that you guys, I'm sure most of you know this. So, and I always, yeah, you guys know this.
We might not. So I'm just
okay. Income minus expenses is your net profit. Okay. So let's say your income minus all your expenses, net profit. If your net profit's like $1 million, that $1 million goes over to your 1040 and you pay self-employment tax. Self-employment tax is basically everything you used to pay would get taken out of your check when you had a W-2. Social Security, Medicare, all that. But now you yourself, out of your personal return on your personal money, you have to pay the employer and the employee portion, which is what self-employment tax is. So when you're an S corporation, you no longer pay that, because now you go on payroll. So, and you can take distributions from your company, which is like when you're not, you take a draw, but it doesn't matter if you take a draw of $1 million, that $1 million you're still paying taxes on. So I always tell people, first of all, depending on your business, because your net profit number, if you have inventory and stuff, that's obviously going to be lower. If you're service-based and most of the money coming in is for service, you probably have little overhead. So when you start to be like, 30, I'm saying net income, like from gross revenue, and I find the service pays like 45 to 55,000 a year, like you're starting to like pay too much in taxes. Because when you become an S corporation, now you go on payroll. So what happens is you take payroll, and I do mine like 60-40. So like 60% payroll, 40% distribution. But what I do with my clients is like we do payroll every month, and then at the quarter we review where are they at, how's business going, can they take a distribution. That is money that goes to them straight, just like a draw, not through payroll, because the net income still comes over to your 1040, but you do not pay unemployment tax. But here's the difference. All the payroll that you pay yourself is now a deduction to your business. When you take draws, you can't deduct that. Payroll, this was an exciting year for me, because I have a handful of clients who were like not really sure, and I explained this, and we became S corporations last year, who I just did their taxes, and they were like, wait, I owe what? $17? She called me back, she's like, 17,000, right? I'm like, $17. She's like, what? I'm like, see how S corporation lets you control the bottom line, where you can start to see, okay, I could take, and you have to take a reasonable salary, which is literally has no definition.
Yeah.
But basically, if you could say, well, and most of us are not just one person, like we do so many things. So you can say, well, I'm taking this much because that's my revenue, and I do the HR and all this other stuff. That's what changed my life. So when I had that year,
$2K a month, like you don't, or $1K a month, like you don't have to set it at a super high number.
Right. You don't. And you can also do like, so what we do is we do monthly, and then we look at the quarter and be like, should we do like a bonus through payroll? Should we do a distribution? Like, how does that affect taxes? Putting more in your pocket. But then also whatever tax you owe, like that payroll tax is being withheld, right? So that employment tax, half is being withheld from your check, and the business is deducting that half, and the half it's paying on you. So my business pays for my New York State unemployment, like all the stuff that would come out of payroll. So right now in this time, if I could prove, I don't know what the requirements are now, but normally I have to prove that I can't get business or whatever, I could go on unemployment. Or I got hurt. and I can't.
And it's not too late to retroactively do this for 2020. Like
absolutely not. It's a little, so at this point, we're going to be like April. So what happens is you need to, and I have all this in there, and I will also let you ladies know I do filings. I handle all this for people. I go through a company that works with just accountants. The cost is different by state. I would say New York and California are like the most expensive. It's like almost $800 to make an LLC. Some states it's like $150. It just depends on their filing fees. But anyway, so you become an LLC, then you have to fill out Form 2553. It's one form, it's free. I charge clients a little bit to process it for them, but you fill it out with all the paperwork that you have from your LLC with that information. You put the date on it that you want to be treated as a, you have 75 days from the day that you create your LLC to become an S corporation, but there's a section where you can basically say, I want to go back. I'm doing this after as a late filing because I didn't know the benefits or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've done this for a ton of my clients, but I did this for myself. So I went from owing all that money. I've never owed again because now I control it with my payroll. I'm paying into what I need to be doing, and it's just changed my life. And so my thing is, I love when clients have been in it for a year and they're like, oh my God, because they're real not sure during the first even like 6 months. They're like, I don't know, because they're taking payroll when maybe cash is tight, but when we get to the end of the year, it's like, hey, look it, you're good.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I'm like just an idiot because my husband's company just did this last year.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, what we paid on taxes before that, like I had
the more you make, the more they take. And so I should tell you guys.
No, it's great.
I didn't tell you.
Number perspectives for people. I lost 15% of my income to taxes for 2019 versus I would not be having to pay that all at once if it was like the business could take care of it, no problem, if it's an S corp. So
and so you're paying as you go too. So each little payroll you take, you're taking it. You're getting a net pay. I'll tell you two more things. I also put into, I have a self-employment retirement fund, and my business matches me 3% over the match, or over the max. So you can have that deduct from your payroll, and then you can max it out to whatever depending on if it's a simple or an SEP. I do not know all these things. I have a person I refer everyone to. It's on my homepage, but basically, they each have their own limits, and it depends on if you have employees, because one of them, I don't know which one of them, if you have employees, you have to offer exactly that to your employees. So if you're taking all this, then you have to give it to them. But I do offer to my employees the other plan where it's matching 3%. But you can actually max it out of your deductions, and the 3% of the business is a deduction from the business and goes on top of your retirement that you've already maxed out. So you really turn your business into like a vehicle to like do the things you want.
Okay, this call's over. It's done. We just
my mom's an accountant. She's my accountant and my business partner, but she doesn't usually work that much with S corps. Actually, she works with a lot of corporations and LLCs, but for some reason not a lot of S corps in between. So she had one of her partners within the business made the recommendation because she was like, "Dude, taxes down." But when she was like, I'm on the phone and I'm just like, I don't really understand all of this. She's not a teacher by trade. She's a good accountant. She's not a teacher by trade. And we're like on the phone. She goes, yeah, well, your business, like we can get a 401k going. And I was like, excuse me, what? My business can give me a 401k? I was like, it was one of those like moments of like, oh, look at me.
We're in that level. Everybody on this call, all your businesses. Elena.
In the business structure boot camp, that's why I take it like the last video, that S corp video, I take numbers and show you what it looks like. Because I'm visual too. And it's like explaining like how it affects it. And you can start to see as it goes down, like how you're saving. And I think I used $100,000 as just like the idea to show you what happens. But, it's made all the difference. And I would say, you want to be at a certain income level so that it makes sense, because you still, cash flow for payroll, but it's not like you have to take the same payroll. Like I always tell my clients that too. Or like right now, you know what? I email all my clients before payroll and say, do you want to take payroll this period right now? Because things are tight. Things have changed. They want to skip a couple payrolls. We can true it up later. We can figure it out. But this way they can leave the cash flow in their business. But I forgot to tell you something at the very beginning. I realized, but so I am an EA. Do you guys know what an EA is? Most people do not. Maybe you might because your mom's an accountant. So I'm an IRS enrolled agent, which just means instead of a CPA, I took a 3-part exam through the IRS that is all taxes. So CPAs take a 4-part exam where one tiny part of the 4-part exam is taxes. I started down that road. I missed it by like 6 points the first test, and I was like, is this what I'm going to do? Because like I think I'm supposed to do this after I get my master's. I become a CPA and I work at 8 million hours for someone else. I don't know. Or people will respect me more. But now we live in this different world where you make who you are. But an EA is all taxes. But what that means is like I'm going through and I have 73 hours of continuing like tax education, which is probably the most boring webinars I have to watch in my life. Anyhow, but the point is you can't play the game if you don't know the rules. Because I was like, all I really need to know is about taxes, because I want to help people be strategic in that, because so many people don't understand it. And it is so written, so like almost like to perplex you on purpose. So how do I communicate that to the world of people, like the basic like English version of what you can do? And the S Corp thing is blowing my mind how many people didn't realize like what it is, what it does. No one tells anybody. And a lot of CPAs, unfortunately, I do not mean to talk bad about CPAs. There's a lot of CPAs who like just have one little thing, and they don't do bookkeeping. They don't understand all the other avenues. I've had them reach out to me to get, and I'm always surprised. Like, I'm like, I've never had to reach out to one person I took over anything for, because I can read, I don't know, but I do the QuickBooks, like I do all the little pieces. So I'm in that kind of universe where a lot of CPAs are like in their little thing, so they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, I think so. And that's why I even like in the beginning, I was like, wait, her business says accounting, but we're talking about bookkeeping, and it's like multifaceted, because I've been in and just, I think a lot of us have a bookkeeper, an accountant, we have all the things. So you are unique in that, but we're providing a holistic approach. And also, I love that you're empowering people to understand it themselves, because
and that's the thing. Because every client I ever talked to, they're like, I don't know. I had a CPA and he filed the S Corp and it was like 5 years ago. I didn't know. Or I had and I'm like, I get upset. So I'm like, how do you look at yourself in the mirror? Like, I teach a man to fish is how I work. You know what I mean? People should come to you because they want you to do it, because they're doing so awesome. This is how I feel. I want clients to come to me and say, will you handle my bookkeeping? Can I have your VIP package? Because I'm doing so awesome and I love you. Not because I have no idea, just do it because that's the other thing. So many of them are like, I just get my tax return and I owe money and I don't know anything about like how to change it. And I just give them all these like spreadsheets, so they don't have any like, I don't even know like evidence, or I don't know the word isn't evidence, but like anything to look at to understand and say, okay, this is why this is happening. So we change this, It's about planning and proactive is all I can say. Being proactive it makes all the difference in anything in life, right?
Yeah. And that said, I know one of Jasmine's questions is like, for us as creatives, as wedding planners, whoever's watching this, because I think this is going to touch a lot of people. I'm really excited about it. What is a weekly, she had like weekly, monthly, quarterly routine. Like, what can we be doing to set ourselves up for success? And then when do we hire a bookkeeper? Like, and do we all need a bookkeeper or an accountant? Like, I'd love to hear your thoughts on like, here are the things you can do it yourself, or here are the things you need to do, and then you definitely need a professional, yada yada. Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Sure.
I actually have a lot of friends who aren't planners who this is a thing for them, and they're like, oh, I've been doing my business for 2 years. I'm a photographer, I'm a florist, whatever, and I've never gotten a business license. And I'm like, run for the hills. But like, kind of what's the progression, I think, from like start opening to, an S Corp? Like, what is that? Sorry, Colleen, I'm going to mute you. Unless if you have a question, please raise your hand in the chat box, because I'm so all about that. And I don't want to miss anybody, or chat with me. And would love to make this open, but also trying to keep sound and stuff down. But yeah, I'd love to see, like, in your mind, like, what's the ideal progression for creatives?
So the first thing that you should do, the first thing anyone could do to help themselves right off the bat is just get a business account, right? Why? Because even if you do nothing all year, you can at least go to that bank account and download all the activity for the year and have what you need, right? Like, it kind of becomes your bookkeeper. If you can, and so there are a couple things around it, like opening a business bank account. I can give that a tax ID. So maybe you file a DBA and you get a tax ID just so that your social security number is not attached to your business. But even at the very minimum, if it is a personal bank account that you're like, I'm just going to do my business stuff in here, I'm just going to handle it here, then you kind of already have, you know, something that's keeping the record for you, even if you export it all out into Excel and organize your expenses and your income so you have numbers for taxes. That's like the best thing, first best thing you could do. The second thing you should never do is use QuickBooks Self-Employed. It is the worst. I'm a QuickBooks Pro advisor, which doesn't mean anything except for like, I know their software better probably than their support, but you know what? It is the worst product. It is like, you know what we'll do here, guys? Let's sell half the product for half the price. Yeah, we'll capture all those people who won't pay the full amount for the full product, is what I feel like. So, because a lot of creatives use that. They're confused that QuickBooks Self-Employed is not QuickBooks Online. They are two different things. They cannot be converted to one another. The QuickBooks Self-Employed is like, oh, we'll help you. You know, you can just use your personal bank account and you can swipe right for business and swipe left for personal, and it's all wonderful, but there is no way to reconcile it. So you could have duplicates. Like, just, that's my PSA. And I will tell you, the first video in Master Your Bookkeeping, my course, is why we're not using QuickBooks Self-Employed. Just because it creates, I have just seen it create so much more mess for somebody who's like, oh, I'm finally getting it together, and then they have just literally made their mess worse. So getting a bank account, don't use that app. I'd rather you use like an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Sheet. But you really, now you're like, well, what about people who are like just starting, so they're like using all this money from their personal credit cards and all this stuff? And that's fine too. Just track it. I would say have a Google Sheet, have like your date, have who you paid, what it was for, how much, and even for your own note, like it was my Visa ending in this, it was my personal bank account, it was my Amex. So that way, if you're audited, you can find all the stuff you need. Keeping receipts. I still have clients I love dearly who I've had for quite some time who will be like, this is something, blah, 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 on my personal card. Do you have receipts? No, I don't need the receipts, but you need them if you're audited. Why didn't you keep them? Well, I'm like, oh, if you get audited, how do you prove it? And unfortunately, the IRS still is like very archaic in the sense that they want receipts. I want to say there is rules kind of around it that say anything under $75 you don't have to receipt for, but there's like a lot of arguments about that's not really what it means. But keeping all your receipts, even if it's just like having a folder that's like June, July, they don't have to be organized and perfect. They have to be something that you can go back to. Because I bet a lot of times at tax time, we're all just trying to go through and pull all the data together. But the best thing you could do is like, even if it's once a month, just make sure you log everything. So you can see how much money do I have coming in, how much is going out, how much even if it's in it, like it doesn't have to be in QuickBooks, but that is a great way to do it because you can connect that to your bank and download it and categorize it. But a lot of people aren't sure about categorizing. Like when you pay yourself a draw, that is not an expense. Unfortunately, some CRMs don't have like a balance sheet feature in them. So people are using it for bookkeeping and they're not having a correct number. So you have to be careful. So the money you pay yourself comes out of your bank account or whatever, but it's not an expense. It's just equity changing from your business to your personal, if you think of it like that. And so you want to be careful of that when you go to do your taxes. I have people that will list all that and I have to explain that. Home office deduction is another one. Now, unfortunately, Skylar is now an S corporation, so that she can no longer have those deductions because tax law changed in 2018 where there used to be a form you would fill out that was an employer. My employer didn't reimburse me for mileage or home office and stuff, but that has to be a lot of money now to even match the deduct, you know, how the standard deduction changed and doubled. So that's always gonna be more than you could ever add this up to be. But if you're still doing a Schedule C, you can take the square footage of your office space that you use for business, and let's say that's 10% of your home. You can take 10% of your mortgage interest, 10% of your utilities that you run your house, your heat, your electric, your all that stuff. I have a lot of people always told me like, oh, I'm afraid that will flag an audit, which that's never been a case. I don't think that's a real thing. I think CPA, I don't know where that started, but it doesn't flag an audit. There's also a method of it where you don't have to keep your costs, like your actual receipts for all that, and it's $5 a square foot. It's called the safe harbor method, which means you're just going to get $5 a square foot no matter how much you really paid, and you're going to take that. Vehicle mileage, that's a huge one for people that do event planning, that are running around, photographers. You know, I really bad right now. It just went up. I think it's like 55.8. I don't know, but it's more than half a dollar. So every 2 miles is $1 back. Like it's a straight up $1 full back. Tracking your mileage, which is something that you can do in QuickBooks online. But it was a big reason everyone used QuickBooks Self-Employment, because that was the only place the feature was. But now it just was released in a QuickBooks Online like in January. Because everybody who used Self-Employed, like, I can track my mileage. I'm like, but everything else is wrong. Don't use it. But your mileage, and again, you could just do that in a spreadsheet. There's apps for it, whatever, but that's $1 for every 2 miles you're going. I mean, I have a PO box. It's 5 miles away. I go twice a week. That's business mileage. So those are important things to keep track of. Maybe monthly, you know, I guess the more often you keep track of it, the easier it is for you, but the more oversight you get. If you're doing it monthly, you can start to see things. If you're going to use something like QuickBooks, you can look at a profit and loss and actually see that. If you're going to use a Google Sheet, then put your income in the top and your expenses in the bottom, and anything you pay yourself on a different tab, and then, you know, then you have an idea what you're actually taking home. And I think a lot of people don't look at that number. They think, oh my God, I booked like $10,000 in weddings this month, but then you got to pay for editing, and you got to remember the stuff that's coming out of that too when you figure life. I think a lot of people see that top number in their CRM or whatever they're using, and they're like, oh, life, but then you're like, no, you don't get to take all that home, get it, live within your means. So, but really tracking it, even in the simplest form of just having some kind of spreadsheet to know. Because also I've had people who like realize they're paying for apps they're not even using anymore. There's so many things you don't realize unless you're looking at it. So, but my advice really is just get a different bank account altogether. Because even if you just go look in there each month, like you have all the data, you keep it clean with just business stuff, you have everything you need in a place, kind of collecting it for you, so you're not having to go figure it all out. I'm looking at these questions over here. So what does the weekly, monthly booking routine look like? And then the other thing too, a lot of people don't realize is you should reconcile your bank account. And so obviously using something like QuickBooks allows you to go in, reconcile my bank, look at your bank statement, look at QuickBooks, you put in the beginning balance and the ending balance, and you tick off and make sure everything is there. Things can get duplicated, things can get missed all the time. I know a lot of people that will use QuickBooks and have never ever done that. They have no idea how to do it or that you needed to do it. QuickBooks.
I was just about to ask, can you explain the word reconcile?
So it really is just making sure that everything is in there. And there's literally like, I want to say like a module, but you'll go into QuickBooks, you'll say reconcile bank account, and it'll say, okay, you put beginning and ending balance, because the difference between the beginning and ending balance is all the transactions for the month, and then the date. And so then you tick in time, excuse me, and you figure out what's there, and you might find there's something on here that didn't come over or got deleted, or I don't know. I'm telling you guys, I do bookkeeping for a lot of people, and every month I say to my staff, this is why we reconcile, because there's always something. There is, or something gets brought in weird, because we have clients that are like bringing PayPal syncs right in and Square syncs right in, like having it all set up right. So, but a lot of people don't do that, and so they miss things. QuickBooks Self-Employed doesn't even allow you to do that. So it lets you bring in stuff from all over the place. So how do you even know that you're capturing it all or you're not duplicating it? That's what gives all accountants and pro advisors, frankly, who work with Intuit, like, what are you doing? Why are you letting people mix stuff? Why are you even suggesting that's a good idea? So then it says, what is the scope of work of a bookkeeper? And really a bookkeeper, so we do everything, but really we download and we categorize all the transactions. We know how to account for stuff. We send questions over if we need, I have clients all the time who are like, I bought this outfit for a wedding, and it's like, well, we help you kind of make sure, like, is that something you can deduct? Let's make sure. And I always go through and say, hey, if I could argue this to the IRS, because tax law is that, it's just law. It can be argued. There have been cases when I was in school, like one of my favorites is about an adult entertainer who was able to argue with the IRS and be able to deduct her breast augmentation because she was an adult entertainer. So anything can be done. It's just a matter of what is my evidence and the proof that it is what I need for my business. So, it's making sure that you categorize everything properly and that you know what's going on. You've accounted for expenses. You've counted, you're kind of just keeping records of everything going through your business one way or another. And that's all bookkeeping really is, and reconciling, making sure it's there. And when is the right time in your business to hire a bookkeeper? I would say it's funny to me because a lot of people start a business to make money, but one of the last things they ever want to spend any money on is anyone to help them make more money. It's just weird to me because I get that objection from people all the time. They're like, I don't know. I'm like, seriously? Like, I've told certain people, I'm like, I could save you more than what you pay me if you become an S Corp. I'll show you. Like, but the thing is, I bet you didn't start your business because you wanted to be a bookkeeper. And so how much time are you spending doing the bookkeeping, trying to learn what you need to know and all this stuff when you could be working on your marketing, you could be planning events. So, it's up to you. But it's, definitely good to, I guess, even be in communication with someone like me or a group like I have where you can ask questions and have some kind of support. But there is definitely a time where, just like any of us, including myself, I have an amazing person who helps me do all my social media. We write the post together. I go through stuff. She picks pictures. I approve it, or I say, let's change it. If I spent all that time that I used to not be able to do on social media, I wouldn't have the presence I do now. And honestly, I sucked at it for so long. I would post randomly. I'm like, I need help. I can do this. It's not like I'm stupid, and it doesn't mean you're stupid if you don't get it. It's just, this is not a good use of my time, and I'll explain it. Do any of you listen to Michael Hyatt?
Oh, I love Michael.
Yeah, so his little box, right? So the things that you're the things you love doing, the things that you're good at, the things that you hate doing, and the things that you're bad at. And your area of genius is right here, and there's a world full of people you could pay to do the other stuff.
Yeah.
And that was oh, Tiffany, like my website. You guys, I used to do website design. It was a real hit to my ego when I'm like, what the heck is WordPress? I know HTML. What is WordPress? Why do people anyone can make a website now? But I don't even know how to use it, but I can code it. So then, I struggled, and then I taught myself WordPress, and then I went through a couple different people who didn't get me. They were like, you're an accountant. You can't have cursive writing. And I was like, no, I can have whatever I want in this world. Thank you. And I struggled to get my logo and my brand. It took me about a year to finally do it. And then I found a business coach who helps me. She helps me, God bless her. She runs my whole Entreport, which is how I run my course and all that stuff. But I'm an achiever, guys. I need to stay up one whole weekend. I'm going to learn Entreport all myself. But I'm trying also to be realistic. You can only do so much, and you've got to have people that are good at what they do in those positions for you, so you can rock the really important part of your business.
I love the cursive or the handwriting.
I know. I fought for that cursive, and I was like, I can have cursive too. You're not the boss of me.
I love it.
It was heartbreaking because she was a creative, and I loved her, and her work was amazing. But I could tell she just wasn't getting me because she worked with creatives and I was an accountant. But I think she was trying to look with me, and so I made my logo. And my business coach I have now, I was like, I went into Canva and I was like, this is what I want my site to look like. This is my logo. And she literally took all that and made it real. And that's why I love her.
And I found you via Instagram. Yeah, you have a great presence on there, and the branding is so on par. I love it.
But it's and I think it's kind of like something I heard in an interview once where a lot of people will look at people and be like, oh, how do you do it all? And let's be real. And I think we're all women here. Yeah. Behind every great woman is another great woman who can do something awesome. And I think that we all try to be like, oh, I do it all, I'm so amazing. But I don't. I have people, and I'm lucky. It's taken me quite some time to procure a couple people that I really need, like pillars in my life to run my business that are really good, that I can learn from, but also who respect me when I'm like, I don't really like that image. I'm very much involved in it, but I can't do it all. None of us can. Yeah. And so I think that a lot of people feel like that about accounting. Mm-hmm. And I try to bring this different presence of accounting so that they're not stressed out and we're friends about it. And I don't know, it is very, very hard to be successful if you're going to try to do all the things. And that is an entrepreneur's problem, is we want to do all the things, and it's our baby and no one can touch it. Hiring my old boss works for me now, but hiring somebody was the hardest thing I ever did. I was like, you have to be just like me. And I wanted to micromanage them, and I was like, Tiffany, you need to get a hold of yourself. But I've learned so much about me being able to have other people. So I just, I think it's important, if you plan to grow your business, to find the right people to help you do the right things.
Yes, amen. Yes and amen. We're believers of that here. Bookkeeping was like the second thing I handed off. I think PR first, then bookkeeping. Huge believer in that. We do have a couple of questions. Do you want to hear them? Okay. I think Skylar had her little hand raised for a long time, so we'll do hers, and then Elena has a great QuickBooks question. Skylar's question is, when looking at P&L, so profit and loss chart, what do we really need to be looking at or for, and how can we make the most of something like that once we get that back from a bookkeeper? My bookkeeper sends me one of those, and I feel really good when I get it. But this is a great question, because what am I really looking at?
Right. So that's your income minus your expenses. And so it's important. I mean, you have a bookkeeper, so I'm assuming most of it is probably set up properly. A lot of times people will do it themselves, and they'll have, because it's just basically everything for a time period in categories, but they'll have auto expense. I'm using auto. You can't have an auto expense unless you have a vehicle. Like, that's a whole other thing, but I'm just using it as an example. Like car expense, auto expense, vehicle, so if it's not categorized properly, it doesn't tell you a whole lot, because it's all split up, or it's duplicated accounts called different things, but it shows you, and then things you can do is break out your income. I have photographers, some of them we break out their income, like wedding, maternity, portrait, depending on what they do. And it's like, okay, now I can really see, like, wow, like my weddings are where I make most of my money. Then you can start looking at your expenses. Well, how much are you, depending on how, it's really in categories, you guys, could be really anything that you want. Now, when you look at a Schedule C, that might be a good way to organize it if that's how you file taxes. But you can organize it even more so, like if you want it to be things that you want to look out for. Like maybe you want, for a long time, I just had apps instead of Office, because I was like, I really want to know, like, how much am I spending on all these apps? Because, they run our lives. So you can break it out however you want to see it. But I usually do like kind of sort of tax categories, if you will. But like another example, like I have photography, your marketing. That's a huge one, right? That's probably one of my biggest things is like, how much am I spending on Facebook ads? Like when you start to see advertising and promotional, like that, okay, so I'm making this much, but that's that much. You can also run P&Ls like in QuickBooks or anywhere to like have a percent. So how much of my income am I spending? And it will tell you how much of your income you're spending on advertising, or trying to think, contractors. That's another one. Like, that can add up quick, and you look at that contracted labor. How much am I spending on that? Yeah. But you don't have to put in contracted labor. Like maybe you want to have it, maybe you have different kinds of contractors, so you want them in categories. You can do that too. But it's helping you basically and kind of sum up where your money is going in categories that make sense to you, so that you can manage your business.
I love it.
Like a big one for me is, so I'm a pro advisor. So when I do bookkeeping for clients, I get wholesale billing. So when I charge a client, they pay for one monthly fee, and I pay for their QuickBooks, for their payroll service through QuickBooks. All that is part of my cost. That adds up. So being able to look at that through a month and be like, okay, like, I'm paying all these QuickBooks memberships and all these QuickBooks payroll memberships. Like, what does that happen to do to me? Do you guys, for events, like I know some event planners will purchase things they resell, or they mark up to a client when they invoice. Do you guys do anything like that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Like, I know a lot of event planners will have things like, okay, we're doing all this. Maybe it's like that you are purchasing parts of and I'm throwing this out.
Yeah.
Sounds like
We don't really buy anything for our clients.
Okay.
Unless it's,
I know some do.
Yeah, our company doesn't. Maybe we buy deodorant on the day of the wedding for the mother of the bride. I did that one time. Some little things we do have in our contract that if there are expenses that come up leading up to the wedding, we can bill them later. But, for the most part, we're not doing that. I think there's exceptions to that, like escort card displays and stuff like that. Skylar, do you have feedback on that?
Yeah, most of the stuff that I buy for clients, they refund me for. Like, I'm not like doing a markup or anything for it. For example, like I've got a really great printer and a really great relationship with them, so they give us a really good price. So I just send on the client's behalf to the printer and pick it up for them week of the wedding, but I don't charge them any sort of extra for that, just because.
But you like charge it, so it's an expense to you essentially through your account, and then they pay you back.
Yeah,
Big,
so
big,
that
big
And I
kind
get
of
something
goes,
to account
which
for.
is what Elena's question is about, but
Right.
also just before, real fast on that, this is not a question, but just to complete the total thing. I do buy things for like maybe a particular wedding that I know that I can use for multiple clients, like for example, table number holders. Like I've got tons of those and stuff like that that I just know I'm going to need to use over and over again. But again, I don't charge them like a rental fee or a markup to use it. It's just a part of like my personal inventory that they get as a bonus for choosing me as a planner that they have access to.
Got you. But still an expense for you because that could be like supplies that you have that you write off when you buy them.
Yeah. But Elena's question with that was how you record a refund transaction in QuickBooks, since we're kind of talking about that.
So you can do it two ways.
Client reimburses you. How do you track that?
Yeah, so you could do it two ways. One, you could, let's say that it is, I'm trying to think of, we'll use supplies as a general category. So say you purchase supplies for a client. So that you put that expense in the supplies account, but let's say that they reimburse you back, and then you could put that in the same account so it cancels out, or whatever the markup difference is. There's really a way, it's a little more technical, but you can actually set QuickBooks up so that you can bill them for the reimbursement. It'll go back into the accounts that it needs to go to when they pay the invoice. So you could actually set up, if you wanted to get really involved or streamline your business, because maybe you do this a lot and this is going to be easier if you set up a system. You would have the line items set up in QuickBooks. You would have them set up as non-inventory items. You would say that you buy where you purchase them from, and then you would actually put those on an invoice, and you could record your costs. And I'm giving this like a real generalization, but you could set this up in there so that you could bill clients. They pay it, it goes, the cost goes to the account, and the reimbursement goes to the right account. It's all kind of mapped in the background so that when you look at your P&L, it's accurate. Or you could simply just have reimbursement income as a category and just bill them all and have all that income come in, so you have event income and reimbursement income, total income, and then your expenses down here. All those will affect the net income profit the same way. It's just how do you want to see it?
Yeah, that's a great.
And this is something I think a lot of people don't realize. My clients is like, it's not, yes, there's a certain way to do things, but how do you want to see it? We can build whatever you want. It's just data. So what do you want to see? How do you want to use it as a tool for your business? And then we make it work that way. And you could do that in QuickBooks, so customize reports and stuff.
That's a great question, or a great response. I think we have time for one more question. Skylar is asking, I've always, and this is probably something you've seen with photographers, I've always wanted to figure out the true cost of a wedding for me, but how do I figure that out for overhead expenses, like software that's used for all clients? So for example, we have like Aisle Planner, it's $39 a month or higher, and it services 10 weddings, or it's a bulk pricing thing. So that included, if we aren't sure how many weddings we'll have for each year, kind of how do we figure out the cost of a wedding for us, so that when we're charging a client for services, we know what our profit is, and really are taking that into account better as service providers. I think this is a great question. I think it's something that every service provider struggles with.
Oh, absolutely. Like that's the other piece of the financial piece of pricing, because you can't even do anything if you don't know. So a couple things I can say on this. One thing is, in QuickBooks, I was kind of getting to earlier when I was trying to dig for that information. I didn't get it, but this is enough information for me to tell you that part. So there's this thing in there called projects. This is actually how I run all my clients. But it's like you have a client name, and then you can have projects under them, but maybe it's just their wedding. For me, it's the client and then the client. But this way, my employees track time. So I actually know when I look at a client, I can see how much I paid for their QuickBooks, how much I paid for their payroll if they have payroll, how much I paid my bookkeepers to do their bookkeeping with their taxes, everything, how much I charge them. I can see it all. It's beautiful. It's amazing. But even then you have the overhead piece, right? So you could take overhead and divide it by a certain thing. So this is kind of weird, but I have a client, which is, I know I have creatives, but I have some very creative creatives. They actually they make salt, like artisanal salt, I guess. Like they get salt and like for cooking, and they make it like, it's crazy. But there's a lot of supplies and things that go directly to those specific things. So we use classes, but then you have this stuff that kind of applies to everything. So you could do something where at the end of the month or the quarter or the year, you say, okay, all these like overline, we'll call them overhead costs, are what percentage of income. And then you can divide that up and apply it to, you can actually have an, overhead category and apply the percentage to like that job so you could see, or start to, and it's kind of a complicated thing, but it's not complicated if I like had a whiteboard to explain, but kind of, you can figure out how much of your overhead is what percent of your income, and then you could start to go, okay, so I need to be charging, I don't know, for example, it's like my overhead is like 10% of my income. So then maybe you need to have that 10% be what you're adding onto your pricing so that you're pricing correctly. And this is two parts. Two parts is trying to figure out your pricing with it, but how to actually view it, which is stuff you can do in QuickBooks and set up. Like that's the one thing about, or even get like a Google sheet too. If you tracked everything in categories, you could take those categories and calculate out what those are. But yeah, because there is a lot of stuff that people have that isn't like, even for me, I have a lot of stuff that's not related to client stuff that I got to pay, but how do you figure out how much that is compared to the client related? You could have, client related, not client related. What's that percentage? Does that make sense?
I love that. That's a great response to that question. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I think I just struggle with when you're talking about like working with creatives and stuff like that, is I'm a creative and I like the numbers, but I also like definitives. Like I don't like this kind of like, I really struggle with projections and stuff because I'm like, I don't know that that's like, I can do this based on.
I totally agree. I agree.
Yeah. And so I really struggle with it. I mean, even talking about this stuff where I'm like, yeah, I can do this, but it feels like, I feel like numbers should be really concrete and they're
I agree. And it's funny because I actually use some tax planning software that projects. Yeah. I physically go in each quarter and put actual what the numbers are now. I really don't care, honestly, what the projection thinks it might be. What I care about is where are we right now in the grand scheme of this, because we need to account for that. Did we pay enough taxes on it? Do we reduce the tax on it? What do we do with that? I don't know. And yet, look at, if you projected 6 months ago, where would your projections be right now today? Not the same. So it's very hard. I get you. I totally get that.
Yeah. It's definitely like a constant tweaking, right?
Yeah.
I took this Google AdWords course and it was like the course director was like, sorry, this is not going to be a one and done. Like this is a constant tweaking to get to your best.
Because even if you record monthly and you just said, okay, now I'm going to take all of my non-client related stuff. What's that percent for this month? So and you might see that percent go up and down to get an idea. Do you need to control your costs more? Is that it? Or maybe you need to even out your pricing. But again, being creatives, that's not everybody's favorite thing. But I think I don't know, people think that they hate it, but I think when it relates to you, your business, your passion, your life, you will actually find it. Once you understand what you've got going on and someone shows you that piece, I think you'll find it that you do like it because it's all about you.
Yeah.
And what you can do. And I think it's just they don't like it because they don't know. Like it just looks scary and I'm all the way over here and I don't even know. I don't even want to look at it.
Yeah. That's why your resources are so amazing though, because you're empowering people to know their own numbers, to dive in themselves. And I've been doing some of that myself this year. And I think it is really empowering. And it's really exciting once you get to know your numbers and understand. The S Corp thing is just life-changing, I think, for this whole team. So much good stuff. I'm going to stop the recording just because.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I just can't thank you enough, Tiffany.
Oh, no problem.
We'll keep chatting, but I hope that anybody who's watching this feels encouraged, inspired, and that they'll check Tiffany out. I'm going to drop the link below the video so that people can check you and your website out, your free workshop, all the things, because you've got some amazing stuff going on. So thank you so much.
Thank you.